A cold desert wind did hum on the sand, soon rousing the life of this forsaken land. Warming themselves, suppressing their ire, two gunslingers sat around a campfire. Silent and still, their minds on their task, the stillness was broken at the pass of a flask. A quick sip of whiskey to fend off the cold and help see them through just what would unfold. Another damn night on this mission of theirs, no rest for the wicked, they looked worse for wears. But this was the life to which they were bound, while serving their country, they can stay above ground. For one of the men, no choice could be better, he'd sworn to this task on a blood-fueled vendetta. So true to his mission that any could see, to not get attached, we'll just call him D. The other man now had a true hunter's spark, cold darkened eyes like that of a shark. For a glorious hunt, his commitment did stress, no names like before, we'll just call him S. This duty of theirs dragged so ever on, all of those years, just where had they gone? Job after job, each taking their toll, aging their bodies and freezing the soul. Packs of great wolves, ferocious and large, like armies of nations that howled in a charge. Killers and madmen whose torturous ways had traumatized many or ended their days. A monstrous bear, tree shook at its rise, its unending hunger and elephant size. They'd both given more than any man should, but this was expected for the greater good. But regrets are for those with dreams of tomorrow. These two wanderers had no time for sorrow. All they could do is work as though fated, preparing themselves as they patiently waited. A call scarred the air in a nightmarish choir, a warning to all of what would transpire. But they knew it well, to the point it was soothing. Now was the time for them to get moving. Dousing the fire and grabbing their gear, the two made their way for the beast somewhere near. The two moved on foot in the cover of night as horses were smelled before ever in sight. The dusty dry dirt kicked up in a cloud, but the gunslinger's steps were not to be loud. A quiet quick step to close in the gap and then lie in wait in a fast fatal trap. The beast was too strong to fight face to face, too fast and agile to lead in a chase, and lastly too clever to use the same tricks, so many close calls for their plans not to fix. But they had learned too, from mistakes in their past, not to wait around, but instead to strike fast. Not to meet the beast in a great savage brawl, or try to outrun till it slowed to a crawl. These weary gunslingers would have to fight smart, just like the beast had done from the start. The greatest of plans that these two could find was to target the beast by attacking its mind. It had its routines, as all creatures do, so recon was covered by both of these two. They'd watched and made note of changing behavior, reactions and strengths, or when it would waver. Testing their luck on the odd rare occasion to see if it employed an attack or evasion. For sure there were times that they tempted their luck, escaping before the last blow could be struck. The scars the two bore, you'd think they were cursed, but to them they were lessons, they'd avoided the worst. The call of the beast once again filled the air, they'd have to move fast to catch it unaware. They came to a pass for a trap to be set, they'd make a stand here and take out the threat. Not wasting more time, they began to prepare. To hold it in place, they established a snare. One time or another, things had gone awry. Despite the bloodshed, neither party would die. This time would be different, for who would survive? It was them or the beast, and it would soon arrive. Across from each other, so to maximize their chances ahead in this brutal surprise. S felt a thrill that set heart to race, but a hunter knows better, his mind was in place. D was so still, for this was the night, no matter the cost, things would be made right. Guns at the ready, not breaking their stare as they studied the ground as well as the air. D had a feeling, after this long career, it wasn't in sight, but was already here. It crept through the dark, as if made of night, just a vague shifting form was locked in their sight. The gunslingers ready, keeping quiet and low. It made little sound, but its scent they did know. A foul putrid odor, a strong reek of death, which clung to the creature with every breath. Both gunslingers set on the snare they fixate, still all they could do was listen and wait. A snap from the snare, through silence it tore, the beast then reacted with an unearthly roar. Fast acting before their chances expire, they jumped out from hiding in a hail of gunfire. They struck at the beast, who lashed out in a rage. It thrashed and it writhed as the gunmen engaged. Bullet casings soon littered the floor, but they didn't let up and kept shooting more. A loud sudden twang gave a chilling decree. The snare had just broken, and the beast was now free. The gunfire stopped, all sound it did scatter. They readied their arms, each shot had to matter. The silence hung heavy in the harsh desert night. The stench of the beast and its blood filled the sight. One step out of place, and they'd surely be done, so stood back to back, it was not wise to run. Their senses heightened, trying to stay alert. It was clear that the beast was feeling the hurt. For it to attack, they were certainly riding, but nothing occurred, just where was it hiding? Uncertainty wrestled, an internal debate, an ill-timed distraction that held on too late. S took a hit that gave off a crack and sent the man flying some several yards back. D aimed his gun to restart the assault. A swipe from the beast brought this to a halt. His gun had been knocked right out of his hand and now was obscured in the dark desert land. The odds had just shifted and all appeared bleak. Despite of its wounds, it still wasn't weak. D jumped aside to avoid getting bit, one lash of its jaws, and that would be it. S gave cover fire, once broke from his stun. D searching the ground, he located his gun. He then turned to shoot, but was quickly disarmed. The beast held his neck to ensure he was harmed. S was still shooting, but in a great leap, it landed on him, leaving S in a heap. He tried to get up, D struggled and fought. The beast stepped on S, and now both were caught. Pinning S to the floor, so to crush his chest, holding up D, his throat the beast pressed. Both the men struggled, strength started to fade. Hidden inside his sleeve, D reached for a blade. The grasp on D's neck had him close to dead, but gripping the blade, he stabbed at the beast's head. It made not a sound, that damned bloody beast. It wouldn't let go, the fight hadn't ceased. It fought ever on, through anguish and strain. Then D pushed the blade deep into its brain. Its grip loosened up, and it fell to one knee. This gave the gunslingers a chance to get free. The two men backed off and never stopped staring, for one more attack the two were preparing. But one heavy thump, and it fell to the floor, and now lying still, the beast was no more. The moment was still, and nothing was said. Both had agreed with a nod of the head. It was finally over. It was gone from this world, and all of the pain its existence unfurled. The wounds they endured now finally surged, but to remedy this, the flask re-emerged. A small humble gesture to help ease their pain and toast their success of their mission in vain. So eager were they to take that good sip, the cold of the metal pressed up to the lip. The flash of a match to light a cigar, when a roar rang aloud from a distance not far. For a moment they froze and visibly reeled. Their confusion and fury could not be concealed. Reloading their guns, they pushed to make ground, trying to follow the source of that sound. On through the dark, they ran with all might, until a small building had come into sight. Alone, unassuming, a ranch it would seem, where from within the window a small light did gleam. They moved up with caution, slow steady advances. With their injuries, they'd not take any chances. They closed to a window, doing their best to hide. From what they could see, there was no one inside. Guns at the ready, prepared to endure. With a gradual push, they then opened the door. A lantern did flicker with a low dying light, but still strong enough to provide a clear sight. Walking inside, they began to surmise how the residents here had met their demise. Blood soaked the walls and pooled on the floor, this once pleasant home, now a scene of pure gore. They had a strong theory they prayed not correct. S noticed something that they had to inspect. D brought the lantern up to the front door and was speechless to find just what they had saw. A few sets of tracks like that of the beast. They were headed towards a small town to the east. The start of the night could not have been worse. The beast had been here and passed on the curse. This job wasn't over, and those were the facts. There was no other choice but to follow the tracks. They both surely knew there'd be no one to warn if they failed their task by the breaking of dawn. This duty of theirs, it goes ever on. They kicked up the dust, and with that, they were gone. Good day, I'm Jar19 and thank you for listening. So what did you think of Peacemakers? Hopefully we'll have you rethinking your dream to be a gunslinger in the Old West. It's just not practical in more ways than one. This creepypasta was inspired by VendettaDylan and Byte 15, whose banter about Old West tales became the story you just heard. I even made them the main characters. Their channels are linked in the description below. Please do check them out and subscribe if you haven't already. I hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you did, then perhaps subscribe, leave a like, and if you're feeling particularly cheeky, maybe even a comment. I do hope that you'll join me again. Stay safe, sleep well, but remember, here we make monsters.